Welcome to Womb Talk. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vanderwalt, the owner and founder of Fruitful Womb Doula Services. In Womb Talk, we like to go over different topics that are acceptable for all audiences. We're not medical professionals. Everything on this podcast is to educate you so that you can make better choices for your body. Don't forget to check us out on social media. We're on a lot of platforms. Today, we have the lovely Sara Jonsdottir. She'll tell you the fancier version of that soon. She is the owner of Revol Cares. She is going to speak just in time for Menstrual Hygiene Day, which is also known as Menstrual Health Day. It is observed annually on May 28th. This is a global day for action so that we can remove taboos around women's health, we can raise awareness, and advocate for better health and equity. So welcome. Please tell us about yourself. Who are you and what do you do? Well, besides the fact that we know you own Revol Cares.
I will happily share. Yes, my name is Sara Jonsdottir. I'm Icelandic born and half raised, lived in Canada half my life as well. So totally fine if you call me Sarah or Sara, either one, all good. So I am the CEO and founder of Revol Cares. I'm sure we'll dive deep into it, but we are a leak-proof underwear company that is flow inclusive. So we really focus on heavy flow, size inclusive. We go up to 7X, and gender inclusive, incorporating different styles and not using gendered language in our marketing materials, just to really create a safe space for everyone who needs our products to access them.
Yay, that's awesome. We need more of that. And that's why when I seen the post about, looking to speak on things, I was like, yes, here, please.
I love it.
So one of the very first questions was just to tell us a little bit about your transition into motherhood. I feel like that's quite a journey. So please do share.
Yes. So I have a 2.5-year-old. So I guess you could say I've been a mother for 2.5 years, plus the 9 months it took to bring her into the world. And my transition into motherhood, I would say, has actually been really smooth. I feel there is obviously a whole layer of chaos having a child, let alone a child and a business. So my transition into motherhood, I feel, was relatively smooth. I was, obviously having a 2-year-old and having a child and a business is super chaotic. It's all of that. I'm no different there. But one thing that I think really helped me was that prior to having a child, my life was kind of always changing because we were so in deep with our business. It was kind of just like, we were just kind of always on the move. And so I didn't have like a really set routine. I didn't have all my weekends and all my evenings. I didn't have this very life that then changed a lot when I had a child. It was kind of like I was always in motion anyways. And then we just kind of brought a child into it. And then it just kind of kept moving. So I feel like I transitioned into motherhood quite easily. Still have all the ups and downs of a typical mom, but I don't grieve a past life. I don't grieve the life I used to have, which I know is an experience that some women have, or mothers have. And so I just feel like, my transition was a little smoother. I had not the easiest pregnancy, but I feel like I kind of just went into it and I was like, okay, here we are, let's do this thing, and have kind of just been rolling with the punches ever since.
I love that. And like you said, it's not everyone's journey, but it's quite a few people's journey. That's often what you hear people say is that, oh, kind of wish sometimes it was like that or a different way.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see a different experience. There's others out there with different ones, right? So, and what was it like growing a business and a human at the same time?
Not easy.
No,
no, not at all. So we just kind of decided to get pregnant. It was not like I've always said that I'm not going to sacrifice my personal desires for my business goals. I do think it's tremendously hard to do both, but I do want to put in the extraordinary effort to have both, to, in my mind, have an extraordinary life. And so we kind of just went in blind. We're like, okay, let's do this. And then basically the window of time that I was pregnant was probably one of the hardest times of our business. Not the hardest, but one of the hardest. And so we, had a lot of ups and downs during that pregnancy, just with the business side. And it kind of kept almost like a light, or like a burning flame of I have more than just myself and my husband to think of. We're kind of building a family. We gotta just go. We gotta get through this and work really hard. And we did, and it turned out beautifully. And our business is really, really successful. We had an incredible year after she was born, and so it was all the good stuff. But it definitely was tough. I had really, really bad morning sickness.
Oh, okay.
And so I really struggled with energy output, and being a high performer my whole life, to suddenly need to really slow down and just focus on getting through the day without vomiting or passing out because I'm so tired. It was definitely a learning curve for myself those first few months.
I do think it added a lot of extra stress really into the pregnancy from the business side, or vice versa, the pregnancy added extra stress to business.
Yeah, probably both.
Peter paid Piper, or
yeah, exactly. A little bit of both. And I think I look back, there were times, this was a very specific moment in our business where we really had to scale up to kind of continue the growth. But we didn't have that bridge to get there. And it felt, and bridge, when I say bridge, we didn't have the capital, we didn't have the money to get there. And so it was how do we do this? And I feel being pregnant just gave me this extra, gotta get it done vibes. And so, but then at the same time, I do look back and I'm I was just crying in my office every other day. So I'm I probably was more heightened in in emotions because of my pregnancy. So
it definitely was Peter paid Piper.
Yeah, definitely.
So what makes you so passionate about inclusive and accessible period care?
As someone that had, I think I got my period, I was a little late. I was 14 when I got my period. Okay. And had a heavy flow from day one to basically the first time, or when I was pregnant was the first time I didn't have a regular cycle. And so for, however many years that is, that's 15 years, always just had a really heavy flow. Until I designed the product, I struggled so much every single month to find something that worked for me. I would always be pairing maxi pads with super tampons and trying to get through the day. And so when I designed the product, I was okay, finally, I feel relief. I feel comfortable. I designed it originally literally just for myself. And then it was one of those things where people heard about it, they wanted it. So I used to sew every single pair way back in the day. Yeah. But what I learned so quickly was the relief that I felt a real strong sense of responsibility, or almost duty to try to give that to the world. And I felt very strongly and very quickly that didn't have a classic form of it's only going to come in these sizes, or it's only going to come in these styles. Because as soon as if you meet anybody in the world and they don't fit in that tabloid magazine, body or whatever, you think, and me being an empath, I was just well, I want to give you my product. And if I can't, because I haven't designed it to a certain size, or haven't designed a style that fits with how you present in the world, that was just a problem I had to solve. And so inclusivity was grained into the business from almost the very beginning, because I was everybody needs this solution. I just have to bring it to people. And so it became part of our values that built the foundation of the business: heavy flow, size inclusivity, and gender inclusivity.
I love that, especially the heavy flow part. I've also had very heavy periods. I had one like less than 2-3 months ago. I literally had to wear a diaper to preschool because I like don't have time to run away to go to the bathroom, and I don't
No,
really want to try to explain to a 4-year-old what anything is
what you're
happening. So I
no,
literally I stole one of my grandmother's diapers. I was like, this is mine now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's so hard to find stuff because I remember when I was
it is.
younger, I was in the store with my dad and I was having one of my first heavier cycles, and I
Mhm.
don't know where my mom was at the time, but an older lady, she was like, oh, you want the best method, flip the pad around. She said put the small side on the back and put it in the
Yeah.
front. But then I found it was just coming all ends, and I'm like, this doesn't help either.
I know. I would like turn a pad sideways in the back so it had like more
Yeah,
butt coverage, and like, like I got creative.
yeah,
I definitely went there, and I think we've many people with heavy flows, like, you have to get creative because there just
yes,
like isn't anything that can handle it. And so part of our like values is we always design for heavy flow.
yeah,
And then we always say, well, if we can do heavy flow, we can do the rest.
yeah.
And so it's just always like our kind of almost like filter and how we move forward was, well, does it solve heavy? Does it solve heavy? And we're just like constantly asking, does it solve heavy? And if it doesn't, it's not really like values aligned. And so we don't do it.
Yeah, and that's a smart way of thinking because I think like the whole topic is really talking about periods, like, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but I'm sure between the two of us, we're not the only ones that have sat there and been like, oh, this is going everywhere. I might as well sit in the
Oh,
bathtub
yeah.
right now.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, why do you think there's a stigma around female bodily functions, and how can we normalize conversations around birth and periods? I'll hear your take and then I'll kind of spit off.
Yeah, please. I I believe, and research shows that um, menstruation, bodily functions of women have been like linked with being taboo in almost all cultures for centuries. This is nothing new, but we're slowly breaking it down. There is such a strong tie between menstruation specifically, and then I think a lot of women's health, um, that is so related to shame and keeping it out of the public, not talking about it. We have communities that have, like a classic red tent where women
Yeah.
go and they're just separate. What I think we kind of miss in today's world is we don't really even share amongst each other anymore. There is maybe amongst your very, very closest, but there sometimes lacks that kind of like, hey, we are all experiencing this thing. Like, let's talk openly about it. And so as a business, we try to really foster that community where people feel really comfortable to comment about their period, talk about their period openly. But I think it's a slow movement of trying to destigmatize, change the conversation. I always just say the more open and proud I am about it, the more I feel like I then create an environment where people feel comfortable and then they feel a little bit more confident in talking about it. But I also have a lot of empathy for people who don't feel comfortable talking about it because the world has told them, don't talk about these things. We don't want to hear it. And so I always just try to be an example of someone that is just like boldly
Yeah.
talking about their period all the time and their experiences and the mistakes and how many times I've stained my sheets and all the things. And so I try to create like more of a fun vibe around it so that people feel like, oh, I've also done those things. Like I relate with that. And I think that's one step, that's one way to make a little bit of change. I do feel like as a woman that's experienced periods, birth, postpartum, part of my story is I had a home birth.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, had a doula there with
Oh,
me.
awesome.
Yeah. But like even that, like the whole home birth experience, like not something a lot of people do anymore. You know, it's not, I don't want to say it's taboo, but it's definitely not what the masses are doing. And then, you know, postpartum, I think until you experience it, it's yeah, it's like a wild how much you. I mean, if you're just talking about the bleeding aspect of it, you know, it's a lot, and it's something that I think we don't really provide a lot as like a society. We don't provide a lot of support on like the physical stuff happening, like
Yeah.
the diapers given in hospitals. Those are like cheap. They're not good. They are, you know, not the most beautiful products to be giving someone that has just literally brought life into the world. And so that's where like we hope that our product can be, because we do promote it as postpartum care as well.
Love it.
Something that people can use. I mean, I used it. My water broke actually in our like Charlie shorts, which are like ultra, ultra, ultra absorbent. And I was sitting on my couch, my water broke, and I didn't leak through. I
Yes.
obviously, I obviously had to change them immediately, but you know, that's the sense of like they are really, really absorbent, and we want people to be able to use them. And for postpartum, they're really fantastic.
That's amazing. And like you said, with the stuff that they get from the hospital and some of the dual clients that I've even helped, they're like, what kind of diapers do I wear? And I'm like, whatever's like the thickest. I mean, 90% of diapers, I mean, I don't even think I've seen it really, but mainly diapers are for urine. They are not
Yeah.
for blood. And I've had so many products that myself I've used where it doesn't collect the blood. It just
Yeah.
sits on the top and pools.
Pools.
And it's just like, it's so awesome
Yeah.
that you're creating these products, and really
Yeah.
I will have to suggest that to everyone now
Please.
because it's definitely a needed then for postpartum especially. So
Definitely. Very needed. And I think it's also just like kind of makes the experience a little bit more like dignified. Like you
yeah,
just have this like really comfortable product that is getting you through, is absorbent, but like it's the softest bamboo. It feels very like luxurious. And so we really like to, I mean, we give them as gifts. Like I give it to any person I know that is giving birth. Just like, wear these, trust me.
that is amazing. And I love what you've come up with. That is such a, it's such a great thing that is needed in this day and age, like especially. And like you said, it is, I think, from our culture in the past where people have brushed it under the table and been like, oh no, we don't talk about that. But I've always been like you. I talk about it. I remember when I first got my period, I was 11 years old, and anyone who's seen this podcast has heard me talk about it 100 times. I saw my uncle in the mall, and I was so confident. I like walked right up to him, and I'm like, I got to buy pads for the first time, and I was so happy. He just didn't know what to say. He stared at me the whole time, like, what do
Oh
you
my
respond? Like,
gosh.
this was like a 40, 50
Yeah.
year old man. He's like, I don't know what to respond to that. So, like that, like that's the
That's
personality I
awesome.
think that more people need to have. Is just like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, it does happen. You
Yeah.
become that part of your stage where you have your first period, and it's definitely very interesting. So, an experience
Agreed.
for anyone who has
Yeah.
to go through it.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that you just like embody that power, and like you're like, I got to buy pads today. That's fantastic. And
Yes. Well,
you know, I
the dentist was just lucky I didn't tell him because my mom was in the dentist. I was with grandma, and I'm like, Grandma, come here.
oh my
But
gosh.
she
That's
was
so
older,
adorable.
so her old fashionedness was like, oh, we don't talk about that,
Mm.
right? But she wasn't
Yeah.
around when I went shopping.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable. I love it. I love that. I love that you share that. I love that you talk about that. I think it's so important. And I think it's important that we have people in society that talk so boldly about
Yeah.
it, because I think we break the ice. We break
Yep.
the ice in, hey, it's okay. I know your grandma and your uncle and everybody says don't talk about this, but we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. And like you said too, is like when you say a story like this, how many people are listening and be like, mm-hmm, yes, yep, or cringing
Yep.
along with you maybe halfway through.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so you've told us a little bit that, you're inclusive for sizes and that you're for heavy flow, but like, tell us more about like the products and things where people can find it. Like, is it in storefronts, or do tell us all about it? So.
Yeah, so we are available online. So we have our own website, revolcares.com.
Yeah.
There we have our full range. Like that's where you can get like colors, you can get all sizes, all styles. That's like really like the place to go shopping. We have then another line, which is called our essentials line. And that one is available in grocery, health food, and pharmacy stores.
Okay.
And that one is like a little bit more of a simplified version. It is like 3 styles, only comes in black, has the heavy protection. And then is like we're in like London Drugs, Safeway, Sobeys across Canada.
Oh, wow.
Pharmacies. Yeah. So like we're in a lot of stores. We're actually in almost like 3,000 stores.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stores. And then we're also in the US as well, quite a bit. There you can find us in like Fred Meyer and independent pharmacies across the country.
Okay. And so you're in Canada then? This is in Canada happening? Oh, wow. Because I know you mentioned you lived in Canada, but I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't from the US? Like, where? What?
No. We're based in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're Canadian owned and operated, and yeah, happy to be here. I mean, I think Canada has given us like an incredible platform to start with, and we're in a lot of really incredible retailers. Been operating the online side of our business for almost 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so been around a long time. Yeah, and have an incredible community around us.
Well, I do have quite a few viewers that are from the US. So do you ship still to the States?
Oh, yeah.
Even with the tariffs and everything? I've been asking some of the Canadian business. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no. So because we're a medical device, technically with FDA, we are not seeing those issues with the tariffs
wonderful.
right now. Always knock on wood. We, can never predict into the future, but as of right now, you can still order our stuff and not get the tariffs.
That's awesome.
And we really advocate for our product to be seen similar to toilet paper and other necessities that are not getting tariffed, and we really fight for that same. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's very, very needed because, like I said, you don't want to have to sit in the bathtub for 8 or however long your period takes.
Exactly.
So if you had one tip for women of any age, of any situation, whatever it would be, what would that one tip be? That's your surprise question. I jump people on the spot.
Business related or motherhood?
Anything for women. It's just a compilation I'm trying to make from all the guest speakers to try to see. And the advice has never been the same, like ever.
Okay.
So you could literally shoot upon, like, you've got it.
Yes. Okay, sweet. I actually heard this this week that to live an extraordinary life, you have to put extraordinary effort into it. And it's something that I want 4 kids, but I also want an incredibly successful business. And those are 2 things I want in life, and I'm going to try to make them happen. I know it's going to be extraordinary effort, but that's what I see as my extraordinary life that I'm going after. And so, I don't regret a single day of like working really hard or also sacrificing my work to go home because my kid is sick. And kind of just like really trying to embody that like effort to get to where I want to go. And I think sometimes just recognizing that it's okay, it's going to not be super easy to get there, but like the end goal is so massive and so awesome that it's worth the effort.
I love that. See, different, something different. Haven't heard that one yet before. Plus, women are definitely, I would say, superhumans. That's what I always say. You guys are like, we're badass. So we can do anything.
Yeah, like we're all so capable. And I think that's like a good reminder. It's like, we can do this.
Yes. Well, I have the link to your website going to be in the description, but are there any closing remarks? Anything else you want to add before we wrap up for today?
Um, just that, it is something that I've learned over the years with being, someone that's experienced periods and postpartum and all this stuff, and being a businesswoman, is like trusting my body has been such a big part of how I move through the world. And getting to know my period has helped me immensely in understanding my energy levels, understanding, you know, everything down to like my nutrition and my movement. And a like tiny side story, I went on a hike last week that I've done like 3 times in the last little while, but I was in my luteal phase, so I was like close, about to get my period, and it was so hard. Like, it was so much harder than I had, the last 2 times. And I knew I was in my luteal phase, so then I could recognize I didn't have to be hard on myself. Like, it didn't have to do with me as to why it was like so much harder. It's like, oh, okay, I'm in my luteal phase. We're going to take an extra half an hour to do this hike today. And that's totally fine. And so it's allowed me to be a lot kinder to myself. And I just think that's a really important tip as well to share with people.
That is amazing. And I'm so very glad that you came today. And like I said, I'm going to talk about this now to everyone because I didn't actually know this existed, and I go shopping way too much. So like,
yeah.
Where's my failure at? So thank you again so much. And everyone for listening, thank you. Please come back next Monday for another great episode.